Hey guys, we're back on the old 86 Corvette, and I showed you last time the harmonic balancer had slipped back. So I've got the timing chain cover off, got all my new parts in, and the first thing you want to do, get you some light in here, and you need to make sure that there's no old gasket material left on the surface of the block there. I went around it with the razor blade and scraped all of that old gasket material off. Alrighty, got my timing chain cover on there, the new one. It's got the new seal there pre-installed. Now to get this thing on, I had to loosen the oil pan. I had to jack the Corvette up and loosen the oil pan bolts, and I didn't drop it all the way. You know, you're supposed to take the oil pan off to install these, but I've got a fresh oil change in this car. I didn't want to lose my new oil, so I kind of cheated it. I loosened the front half of the oil pan bolts, and I did not want to deal with removing the starter. You have to remove the starter to get to the last of the oil pan bolts, so I just removed the front half of the bolts and I was able to get it in there. It was a little bit of a fight. It'll be much easier if you drop the oil pan to get this timing chain cover on there. Much easier. But if you want to cheat it out, it can be done. Here's my new harmonic balancer. It's a Dorman. Picked that up locally at O'Reilly's Auto Parts. It was about the same price as what I could order one for online. Maybe $5 more, so I just went ahead and grabbed it locally. Here is my original harmonic balancer bolt. Of course, without the washer on there. It's got that big washer. You know, but you can see the difference here. I got one 4 inches long to install it with. I wish the threads went farther up, but this is what they had, you know, at my local bolt supply, so it'll work. I may have to use it with a little stack of washers or something to take up some space, and then you know, go back and forth, take it in and out a couple times, but you know, we'll figure it out. Let's see what happens. Now it's about 110 degrees out here in South Texas, so I'm going to just set this harmonic balancer out in the sun for a little while because I've had it in the house all night and it's cold to the touch. An old trick that you could do to these things, if all else fails, is you can take a heat gun and you can heat up this center part of your harmonic balancer, and it will just slip right on to the end of the crankshaft. You don't have to press it on at all. It'll just slip on. You know, there's debate though whether or not that heat, when you heat this thing up, if it'll damage the seal in the timing chain cover. And there's a rubber ring inside of here. You know, there's debate that the heat could damage that rubber ring, and I've done them before by heating them, and I didn't have any issues with oil leaks afterwards. But I'm gonna try not to heat this one and just use the bolt. So I'm gonna use Mother Nature here to help me out, you know, and just try not to put it on there dead cold, because it was in 75 degrees in the house, you know, overnight. So let's let this warm up, you know, to outside temperature at least before I try to put it on. So the first thing is oil. Oil's your friend here. A little bit of oil on there, a lot of bit of oil. Grab my harmonic balancer. Good old South Texas sun has helped me out some. This thing is hot. It's hard to handle. It's so hot. Might just slip right on there. Well, no such luck there, but it did start onto the keyway enough to where I feel good about that thing going on square. It started on there a little bit. Got my long bolt here, and I've used I have these aluminum bushings. I have 2 of these. I keep a lot of nut and bolt junk in my toolbox, so I happen to have those, and I threw a little thin steel washer here so that my bolt head doesn't eat into that aluminum. You won't have that issue if you use a steel spacer, but a piece of pipe, an old socket, anything, you know, just to take up some of the length of that. And I have 2 of these aluminum bushings, so let's see I might use two. I might use two here because that's sticking out quite a bit. There we go. I've added one more aluminum bushing to that. That looks pretty good, because I want at least a quarter to a half an inch, probably a half inch of thread into that crankshaft before I start really cranking onto that thing. Got my wrench. Now when I was taking this off, a lot of people ask, how do you hold the harmonic balancer still? Well, I was using that crow's foot puller, and I just put a little block of 2x4 there on top of the cross member in this Corvette, and that crow's foot puller would hit that 2x4 and prevent it from turning. This is going to be a little trickier because I don't have anything to put that on, so I'll have to get creative to turn. Now, before I get carried away with this, let me take this back out one more time and oil my threads real good. I don't want those threads dry when I try to pull that on there, because I'm going to be putting a lot of force on those threads. Now, this isn't a super pressed fit on these, it's more of an interference fit, so you should be able to get it on without too much trouble. Let me get a little oil on this. Now that I've got those threads oiled, I'm going to go ahead and crank on it a little bit and see what happens here. Hopefully this goes on without too much trouble. That timing chain cover last night, it was hard. It was a lot harder than I thought, having to do all of that. Because when I took it off, I didn't even loosen the oil pan. I just took it right off. There isn't much room to work in these Corvette engine bays here. It's not like working on an old Chevy truck, that's for sure. I think it's moving. It's not trying to turn on me. The balancer's not spinning anyway. That engine will turn over. It's just the compression of the engine right now keeping it from turning over. Got a little more room here than when I was trying to take it off with the crow's foot puller, so I'm going to try to use my ratchet, make my life a little easier. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Still going nice and slow. I don't think you would want to use an impact on this, even if you could fit one in there to put it on. Take your time.
That's definitely sliding on there. By now that bolt would have been tight. I'm going to run out of threads here. Eventually I'm either going to bottom out in the crankshaft, or I'm going to run out of threads on the long bolt. So I may switch to the factory bolt once it bottoms out.
Bottoming out, so I'm going to loosen my bolt back up here, change bolts, and I can see down behind that, I don't think you can see, but I can see that the collar of the harmonic balancer is already getting into the seal, and it wasn't nearly there before, so it is making good progress here. If I can reach it and get at least a half inch of threads into the crankshaft with my factory bolt now, then I can go all the way. Okay, there's my factory bolt, and this washer, you want to make sure it goes on the right direction, because that thick washer, it doesn't look like it, but it's got a slight bit of concave in the washer to help hold tension when it's tight. Let's see, I don't know. I would like a little bit more thread than that, but as long as you're not pulling too hard on that ratchet, you know, shouldn't be too worried about your your thread's 1/4 inch. It's probably enough, as long as it's not putting a lot of force on them. I'm getting more thread by the second here as I go, so it won't be long and I'll have a 1/2 inch of thread into the crank. And it's still moving, so that's good. I'm going to back it back out here because I forgot to put oil on my threads. And that'll show me how much thread I've got now too, so let's see. Oh yeah, it's a lot better. I have about 3/8 now of thread in there, for sure. And put some WD-40 on that bolt. Goes nice and easy for me. And let's go again.
These bolts, and these old small block Chevys, you know, they're not like the LS bolts. These only torque to 60 foot-pounds, so you can reuse the old bolt. I'm going to put a little bit of red Loctite on that bolt when I'm done. Won't hurt anything. And I have a torque wrench there. I'll torque it down to 60 foot-pounds once I get ready to do all of that. So, I can see that my balancer collar is slipping up into that seal nice. So that's good. Got a little pipe here. Let's see if this will make my life any easier. If I had a little bit longer ratchet, it sure would be easier. That's just be in my way, I can tell already. This would also be a lot easier if it wasn't 100 degrees in my garage. But it's going. I've got it more than halfway on.
Get some light on the subject for you guys, but I can't seem to get my my flash working there. But anyhow, I came back out. I went ahead and put my pulley on. Put some red Loctite on those pulley bolts. Put some red Loctite on the main crankshaft bolt. And I got my trusty old torque wrench over there somewhere. You can kind of see it right there. Torqued that thing down to 60 foot-pounds. You know, it's not even a lot. Didn't even feel very tight at 60 foot-pounds compared to what I'm used to after tightening an LS crank bolt. But, you know, it's on there. So, to make sure that this thing is on there all the way and fully seated, I was a little worried about that. But, you know, you can pretty much tell, because once you bolt that pulley onto the front of the harmonic balancer, it lines up with the other pulleys. So that's definitely on there all the way. So there it is. That was the harmonic balancer reinstall using a industrial bolt supply bolt for $3. It's easier than renting the install kit, in my opinion, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper than buying a harmonic balancer installation kit. So I'll go ahead and hook up that power steering line, because my next step is the water pump, and I want to pull this car outside and flush the engine block out with a water hose before I do that. Alright, I've got my water pump on there. Pretty self-explanatory. I put a little RTV on the gaskets there. I'll put a little bit of white Teflon tape on the heater hose pipe there and installed that. And I've pretty much got everything put back. Put my AC compressor bracket back onto those bolts, those shared stud bolts for the water pump. And I've got everything back together with the exception of my wires, my heater hose line, and the main radiator hoses. I'll put those back on tomorrow, and the belt, and that'll be it. I can test it out. That's it. I'm going to wrap the video up right there. So thanks for joining me again here at Pop's Place. I hope this helps some of you guys. Make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you can be alerted when I post some new videos. And I'll update you guys soon once I have the car running. I still need to pull the car outside and show you guys the paint job too. I've pretty much finished all the paint work with the exception of some minor buffing. I need to put some new bulbs all the way around the car before I put my lenses back on. But I kind of got interrupted there at the end of my paint job with the water pump repair and harmonic balancer and all of that. So thanks again. We'll see you next time from Pop's Place.